Good morning, everyone. And by morning, I mean afternoon. How's it all going? Alright, so... let's get a reference in today. There we go. Getting everything all sorted. Alright. So, we are traveling through Japan, from south to north digitally. Clearly, I can't afford to actually go to Japan, so we're doing these digital plein air paintings using Google Earth and any other kind of resources that we can find to be able to go and travel and paint. I'm really excited. Today we are down the very bottom of Japan, this place, Tanegashima Island, something like that. Oh, I forget what it's called. And here we go. We are painting a shrine called Onoyama Shrine in Tanegashima. That's what it's called. Needed to do my research beforehand, huh? Okay, so here we go. Let's do this. So there's so many ways to start painting this. You see this reference. There's we've got this piece, this shrine, which, let's have a little look. Let me get this camera right. There we go. Okay. So there's so many good ways we could start painting this. I think this time I'm going to we're gonna put the shrine over here and get some distance. Kind of like the idea of having a distance between the direction that you're facing and the edge of the canvas, putting the distance in here instead of behind there. So with the same thing with this building, we're gonna have the building is kind of facing in this direction, and the reference has the building facing directly into the side of the painting. I'm not gonna do that, so I'm gonna move it aside a bit. So let's have a little look. So feel free to ask any questions if you have any, guys. We're about to begin. Alrighty. So like always, the first thing we're going to do is wet the paper. This is so that we feed the paper now, so the paper can feed the paint during the first part of this process. That'll enable us to make soft edges and some nice stuff. Ooh, there's something on the other side of the page. Let me get rid of that. There's a bunch of stuff there. I really actually don't want to get that wet. So let's put something in between. Alright. Alright, so yeah, this is in the south of Japan. Kind of south of the larger big islands. This, what's it called again? Tanegashima. Looks like a really, really beautiful place to be. Okay. So I'm going to start by kind of providing the... I'm going to start with the building. Provide the main structure of the building. as I'm painting. Okay, so there's so many ways I could do this. I think I want to get these gradients in. So I'm going to be experimenting with a technique that I just started using a couple of weeks ago, which is to put white down first, and then paint into the white. And oh, here's my rag. Yeah, if any of you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask. We're here to chat and have fun. Okay. So I'm going to try and think about the extremities of where I want this to be. I'm going to put a couple marks down. Just marks that'll like be gone later on. So I kind of want the top of the top to be over here. The edge to be over here. So I'm doing this really lightly, in a really light paint. It's just going to get covered over. So I don't have to worry too much. I'm really just at the moment trying to think about the kind of perspective that we might be using. So because the top kind of flares up on the side, it's a little difficult to determine the perspective just by the roof line alone. But I want to put it in like a box because that'll help my brain figure out what's going on. And once I have a good idea about what's going on, then I can put all the bells and whistles and frills and stuff in. Alright, I think my roof line's going to change a bit. Which is why we do this stuff. Not too worried about it. Like I'm literally looking at the angles of my reference as first indications. Alright, so that's good. Here's the middle, which means that this peak is really going to be up here. This roof line is going to come down. Actually comes down pretty far. I know perspective, it's not thrilling, but it's necessary. Here we go. And I know that if I just take a little bit more time with getting the perspective right, then I won't be paying for it later. Because God knows that that's happened before. Oh, hello. That was a bit strong. Alright, so feel free to ask any questions you guys might have. We're really just getting things started here. Basic ideas in. Okay, so what happens is it's not just a box like I've drawn. It's these corners come up. So the corner's going to come sort of up like this, pretty significantly. Yeah, I'm using crazy colors for this. It's fun. As well as coming up significantly on that side. And yeah, I got a ton of stuff, fun stuff happening in the roof line. Now you don't actually get to see the roof line on the other side. Maybe a touch right here, but not really. Okay, so now I've got that in. Let's get to some fun. some fun stuff in the back. So what I am going to do is this tree right behind it's dead. Or if not dead, it's just not in season. So I am going to kind of bring it into season. I want to make it one of those beautiful cherry blossoms. Here, okay. Let's get a better angle. There you go. So I'm gonna try and put this stuff in really quick. Let's just kind of like work quick for the whole thing. Let's get some of the foundational ideas in, and then kind of work our way. Then we have some other tree out the back here. And if I do it pretty loose now, while everything's still kind of wet, then they will merge together in a way that hopefully will be really nice and won't steal our attention for anything else. But most importantly, it kind of just provides a color and value background for everything else that we're doing in the building. Alright, so horizon line is, it is roughly around there. Let's see if I can get a better angle for this. There you go. I'm just going to see it a bit better. There we go. So I don't know if it's just me. I'm not seeing any of the chat at the moment. Could be because there is none. But if you have questions, I'm all down for answering. So don't be afraid. Alright, let's get a little more value in here. There we go. I'll have a tree off in the distance in the back, and I'm just going to use a kind of like a blue shorthand for that to say that it exists, but I'm not really going to give a detail. There we go. Nice. I think while everything's still soft, I do want to give a little more kind of value depth in here. Not a great deal more. Like I may have just put too much in. Just enough. There we go. Happy little trees, right? And we'll come back over in a little while with some, in fact, let's do a little bit now to get a better blend with some kind of more opaque sections. So this will be where the light's hitting. And when we come back in later, we'll add like more individual leaves and such. All right. So we'll leave that there for now. I'm going to grab some white. There we go. Got some of this white paint. And right. I'm gonna lay down a bit more water. I'm gonna get this just a little more wet again in these areas that I'm about to put a gradient. And then I'm wondering if that's a good idea. It's actually not a good idea yet. Okay, so if I start to do those gradients there, it's going to get really wet. We're going to bloom between the background and the foreground. And I don't want to do that. So, instead of that, let's keep working on maybe some of these more background elements. We'll lay down a color for the dirt in the ground in this foreground area. There we go. I don't want it to be too saturated. Hello. That is not saturated enough. There we go. So we'll add some rocks and stuff in the back there. For now, we'll just lay this stuff down. I'm gonna lay it down and I'm gonna add gonna try and think about kind of what gradients we want represented in the ground here. Alright, so there's going to be this huge shadow underneath the house here. So let's kind of go for that. The house is actually raised, or the shrine's raised up. Or you know what? There's even going to be a like a patio there. Alright, so the paint around the roof is actually pretty dry. Let's get to that. Let me work in real quick. I'm not sure that I have a great deal of time today. let's see. I love the color of this roof here. It's definitely a gray. But it's almost this greeny, jadey, turquoisey kind of off-white. We'll start there. I think, okay, not my favorite. Not quite like that. Let's get a little less saturated. Here we go. Nice. Now let's go think about what kind of gradients that we get here. I don't see much in the way of gradient, but I do want to put some in. I think we're going to do just a really subtle one from the top down up here. And then the textures and everything I think is what really is going to gain control with these roofs. But I think every little bit of, I don't know, every little bit of movement helps, as far as I'm concerned, and gradients are definitely this huge sense of movement. So even if it's just a little bit, I want to put a gradient in. It's always going to help. There we go. Alright, so I think I'm ready to even move a little bit further down in here. I don't think it's going to matter if this bleeds too much. There we go. Alright. At the moment we're playing a pretty simple game of drawing in the lines. Okay, but I think that we're ready to put gradients on these walls, and I think that's going to really kick everything off. Okay, so here's what we're going to do before. We're going to put down a layer of white. I think I'm going to do this individually, but between both sides that we see of the cube here. So there's a layer of white. Then we're going to come in with the color that we're going to use for the walls, which isn't going to be too saturated. It's always hard to find that right balance of like, how do I want this wall to look? How do I want what color exactly do I want this to be? Okay, I know from the beginning it's going to need to get a lot darker than that, and also not quite as saturated, warm. But then again, I'm going to have it warm at the top. Let's see if we can make a temperature transition as well. Alright, so we'll start with that. Keep getting messages from people. Oh, no questions coming in my end of things. Let's have a look. Let's see. Thanks for letting me know. Okay. I don't see anything over on Twitch. About on YouTube. There we go. Okay, got a whole bunch of questions. Okay. Alright. So, sorry about that, guys. Thank you. I don't know what happened there. But once I get this gradient down, I'll start answering all of your questions. Thank you. The soy sauce life. Okay, so hi. Super K says, where are you physically located at the moment? I am in Clemson, South Carolina. Kinda middle of nowhere. But only kinda. Supercat says, oh, Akuta says you're Norik. So you're working on a bit of painting and stuff to watch for a bit. Nice, thanks for joining. Super K says, do you ever use water brush while traveling, or do you always bring your brushes? I do bring water brushes. I normally bring my brushes as well, though. If I bring a water brush, it's mostly to carry water in a convenient way. Lysel says, hi Justin, just watching one of your Gumroad tutorials. Had to pause to watch you live. Here where I am, our store has chroma opaque poster colors. Are those good? Possibly. Give them a go. I haven't tried. I haven't tried all the poster colors out there. So if they're not good, let me know. But hopefully they're good. And now we have stuff in. There we go. There we go. I don't know why I wasn't getting questions there, but I've got my chat. I've got chat everywhere now. Whoa. I got a whole bunch of chat. Cassie says, do I always start with completely wet paper? Most of the time I do. It just helps. It gives me a time period where I can kind of flow for a longer period of time and have softer transitions, and just gives me more variety. Oh, thanks, Marie. Marie says, yeah, I could only see the YouTube comments for a while for some reason, but now we're good. The Flaming Galah says, boo. Welcome, Flaming Galah. Cherry Rose says, is poster colors archival? It depends. It's kind of a Wild West of paints. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are really good. Some of them are terrible. You kind of just gotta pick and choose. Like the stuff that they use, the Nika poster color, which is what I've got here. They're still good for like all of the stuff they did on the Studio Ghibli films like 20, 30 years ago is still in prime condition. But will they be in 200 or 300 years? Probably not. I don't know. Delivery says, weird question, but Nika comes in jars, right? You put them in the palette. I do put them in the palette. I use the end of a brush. I use the end of my brush to do that. Which is not always... It's the best I've come up with. I mean, I could probably use a spoon or something. But... Okay. I'm going to shut up and work here for a while, because I don't have very much time for getting this gradient down. I'm definitely going to need to come back and maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. So, I maybe wouldn't put all that white down all the way to the top again if I was doing it. So, let's scrape some of that paint off. We're going to come in and work through that again. Down here, that seems fine. Doesn't seem like the Twitch video for the painting is updating. Man. Technical difficulties all around. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. Is that any better now? And then we'll get back to here. It has just been quite the day. There we go. The way of the streamer. Yep. Alright, I think we're good now. Alright, this is getting much better. So there's this really beautiful red paint on the front of this building, which I think is why I liked it to begin with. So I'm basically doing the whole thing like one big gradient. And then I'll come in and put in my details. But no need for details yet. Alright. Okay, and at the bottom is more like wood. Than faded paint. So we're gonna get the right color here. There we go, getting it less saturated. Let's have a look. Alright, I'm going to start here and we can work from there. Nice. Well, thank you guys for being so patient. Don't know what's been going on. But we made it. Okay, so I've got these gradients in, and that's nice. We'll, once this dries, and I actually might soften this up a bit. Let's see if any of my soft brushes are actually still soft. Okay, I'm going to soften this up just a touch. There we go. And now okay. Let's grab the underside of this roof. We're getting close. We're getting close to like having something. Having a start. I'm afraid that I'm just not getting messages again. So I'm gonna double check. Okay, that's not telling me. No more messages there. Alright, maybe I was just being paranoid. Cool. So, yeah, the underside of this is receiving a lot of bounce light. So it's actually kind of quite warm, which is really nice. It's always a nice feeling to see that. I'm going to run it all the way up. So I really am just doing like super basic blocking in, and then we can pull in the details later. Though I like to try and think about what kind of gradients are in any kind of blocking in, because it's always easy to add them now than later on. Laszlo says, I think people just mesmerized by that beautiful red color gradient. I love a good gradient and a good red, especially a red that's like surrounded by vegetation. It's that red-green combo. I feel sorry for people who are colorblind and don't get that. Alright, as soon as I have this color ready, I'm going to put it up here as well. think that's just going to be a nice combo. Oh, somebody just started following me. Thank you, somebody. Who I don't see because my stream is all messed up today. But, okay. So we've got that. We have this. Oh, Cobb, welcome back. You could have lied. We've got this little patio beforehand. Moofy, I did start following. You've been following Patreon. Oh, thank you, Moofy. Yeah, actually, you a bit of a new arrival. I'm really excited to have you. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. Oh, good. I'm glad the tutorials were helpful. Hey, if anyone else wants to support me on Patreon, go ahead. It's very helpful for me as an artist to know that I have a certain amount of income coming in. It helps me to be a bit more confident in doing risky things like this. Alright, let's put this patio in. Man, I love this. This building gradients period is always really... It never quite looks right, but it's so fun. Alright. So I'm putting down like some really rich color now because I know that what I'm going to use to make it darker in the places that it gets darker and what I use in the when it gets lighter to make it lighter will both take away from the saturation, right? Because you get only it's in the mid-tones that we have like super high saturation. So once we move away from that, everything gets less saturated. So if I focus on putting down my mid-tone, mid-range at high saturation, then when I come in like this and start to put in the gradients, it's just going to do a really good job of... The whole thing's not going to feel too saturated by the end. But if I start off less saturated, then it's going to get even less saturated. It's going to be really hard to make it saturated again. So it's just this play. Alright, I think this brush is a little too big for what I'm trying to do. So I learned this cool trick the other day from a friend. If you're using a round brush, and you basically brush it flat like that, it's going to put a little gradient in. Like that. How cool is that? It's like a gradient without thinking about it. Whew. You learn something new every day. Yeah, isn't that cool? It's just any round brush. Any round brush will do it. I suppose because the thickest part of the brush is like right here. And it pushes the paint away or something. There, I'm at it again. Man, and if you wait for like everything to get dry, you can just like do a little wash and put in these gradients. These like secondary and tertiary gradients. So cool. Alright, so I'm going to put some light. A lighter section in here. Let's see if we can do the other way around. Here we go. All as you've been wasting my time making gradients. When I have my favorite round brush right there. I know, and there's small gradients too. I mean, you can use a big round brush, but all those tricky ones, all that time, it wasn't time wasted. Moofy says that's a very satisfying gradient. I agree. I'm so happy about it. So happy about it. All right. Okay. So let's see, what else can we do? How dry is this? This is pretty dry. It's getting there. It's getting there. This is dry. So what I'm gonna do next. Moat says, "Why did you choose to paint Japan? Looks awesome so far." Thank you. Abraham, once again, I'm like, a little bit, but you know what? So was I. So was I. So you're not that late. The game is still strong. I chose to paint Japan because I don't know. I've always had a little bit of a thing for it, and I love this. I love the architecture. I love the. There's so many like jungle islands in the south that I couldn't miss the opportunity. No, I had to start somewhere. After Japan, I'll do somewhere else as well. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I keep like mixing paint and just not going for anything at all. I'm gonna do some of these. Maybe not that dark. I need my tablet. I have the reference on the screen there, but it's a little far away from my liking. So there's no good way to do this. All right. So there's lots of good stuff going on here. All right. I'm gonna at the moment everything's a little undefined, which is fine. But I'm gonna start making some more defined marks. Which might not necessarily come off as detail, but it'll help. Alright, so there's that one. There's like a number of stuff down here. What brought me to the US? A woman. A wonderful woman. My wife, in fact, is American. So I met her in Sydney, and that was that. I liked her pretty much immediately, and she thought I was alright. Took a little convincing. But that's how it goes, right? Sometimes. Oh, here we go. I've painted some of this like it's all part of one big roof line. Moofy says that's so sweet. Yes, it is. It is so sweet. Alright. Okay, so I painted this like it's all one big roof line, but there's a... What's the appropriate place to do this? I think it's where... Yeah, so this comes in down here, and then basically... This is like a porch overhang. Yep, down here. This might get a little confusing here for a sec. Cup says, I find architecture hard to paint, which means I should certainly work on it more. How do you go about painting it in comparison to more organic things? It definitely requires a little more planning. The hardest thing is getting your head into a place where your head is doing perspective. Perspective is one of those things, it's like we're surrounded by it all the time, but it's more like a language that we know how to listen to. You know, people are like, yeah, I know what people say when they speak Spanish, but I can't speak Spanish myself. That's kind of what perspective is to most people. It's like, yeah, we know when it's wrong. We're surrounded by it every day, but the hardest part is getting to a point where you can speak in perspective. And once you get to that point, then you're pretty good. So yeah, it's developing that skill. Flaming Glass says, did you have to go to the concert in Sydney before you went to the US? I did. And they asked me if I was going to see a girlfriend, and I told them yes. And she gave me such a judgmental look. But, you know, it is what it is. Alright, so this is good. Let's get some of this stuff on the roof. Moofy says, you have to practice using perspective grid lines a lot before you're able to do it naturally. Yeah, perspective grid lines help a lot. I would definitely be doing practice there. Let's see, also breaking things down into like primary, you know, like breaking something complex into, say, a cube and then a cone, or, you know, whatever, breaking it down into those things and then changing the perspective and everything around that stuff. If you get to a point where you're actually changing perspective in your head and you're moving things around in your head, that's kind of been the biggest thing for me. But that involves a whole bunch of grid lines, yeah. Flaming Glass says, the immigration interviews are scary. Glad you made it. They are pretty intimidating. Have you been through that process? Sounds like you have. Yeah, you were from Perth, right? So you're somewhere else now. Yes, you're in Utah. I remember now. How was that process for you? Yes, USCIS. Eesh. Yeah, they're the worst. When we went to go get married, we had to go and get a marriage license. Is everyone in this chat just Aussie expats? I don't know. I am. But we went to go get a marriage license, and the person was like, nope. Amy, happy to catch you 2 times a week. Yeah, I'm happy you're here too. On your birthday, happy birthday. That's exciting. How old? Oh, I can't ask a lady that. I was gonna ask you how old you are, but social faux pas. Yeah, what was I talking about? $10.23. Oh, sweet. 23 is a nice age for me. I enjoy 23. Let's see. Man, there's lots of fun stuff going on here. Sorry, this is when we start getting to these roofs, it gets a little It's a little repetitive. It's a little less than exciting, but that's okay. Yeah, so we went to get married, and the person at the office told me I couldn't get married because I didn't have a social security number. I couldn't get a social security number because I didn't get married, so it didn't make any sense. Anyway, then we went over to the next county along, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just won't fill it in." Bureaucracies are the worst. That's all I know. The worst. But now, me and my wife have kids, so there's basically, and I entered the States in a legal fashion, so there's basically nothing they can do to get rid of me. They're stuck with me. Alright. I'm glad it worked out for you eventually, Flaming Claw. Did you have any were there times where it didn't work out for you? You did the fiancé visas, had to get married, no backing out. Yeah, true that. Well, I didn't come over on a fiancé visa, so it was a little more adventurous for me. You got deported. Oh no. Movie says got married after a year dating just to get the visa. I would have gotten married either way, but I did get married a little bit quicker. We got engaged, and then we started doing all the paperwork for immigration, and got told that basically we had to get married basically ASAP or leave the country. So I got married in like 5 weeks. It was exciting. It was supposed to be a 6-month engagement. It ended up being a 7-week engagement actually, but 5 weeks after we knew. Flaming Guy got deported after flying 45 hours. You know, I've heard that before. I've heard of that happening. And it sounds so miserable. I'm sorry to hear that. Get married or get out. 5 weeks. Yeah, it was pretty insane. It was a pretty crazy time. But I enjoyed being married more than I enjoyed being engaged. So I'm happy. Let's see, how long have I been married now? I've been married for 8 years. Quite a while now, really. Quite a while. The Flaming Glass says, have you visited Australia since you left? Once. I managed to get back over there one time. Actually, this last August. Man, it's expensive. It is well too expensive to go on any kind of regular frequency. So, yeah. We saved up all our pennies and went over for the first time in 8 years. And we're still reeling a little bit from that expense. Flaming Glad. You haven't been able to do it? Yeah. When did you last go over there? Okay, let's have a look. So I have this in a perspective where I'm seeing more of the top than in the reference, but I think that's okay. It's alright. It's alright, it's alright. Get a little round brush trick again. Get that little gradient in there. Oh man, that trick. Flaming Glasses. I moved here in 2010. Haven't been back since. It is ridiculously expensive. I agree. It's too much. Murphy says it's like Australia has an invisible money border. Yup. It's craziness. I mean, it works for everyone inside of Australia. But once you're coming to Australia from outside, it's terrible. Alright, we're going to do more of this. Little secret gradients. More of them. Big gradients forever. Okay. Maybe I'm going to do this in a small brush. Yeah, let's get a slightly smaller brush. There we go. Try not to destroy anything while we're at it. There we go. So we're gonna do. Whoa, that's not what we wanted. Oh well. Not everything works. Okay, Moofy says flights from Brisbane to Sydney are more expensive than flying the UK to Germany, despite being similar flight times. Yeah. I mean, for me, Australia is costs twice as much. For every week that I saved up in Australia, my job there, it was a month of living expenses in the States. Lee, welcome. I'm glad you're able to make it. I wasn't sure that you'd ever be able to catch one of my streams either. But I'm super glad you're here. Yeah. So hopefully, most Thursdays and Tuesdays, maybe not the Thursdays. We'll see. But for now, I'm saying most Thursdays and Tuesdays, I'll be streaming. Moofy says, "Are you streaming on 2 platforms?" I am because the internet is magical. I am on Twitch and YouTube. Flaming Glasses, I love the tile detail. Thank you. That was, yeah, it's satisfying. Satisfying tile detail. Oh, someone on Discord is saying something. Maybe not. Oh, look. Yeah. Oh, people are answering for me. Thank you. Thank you, Moofy. So now I'm going to do some of these. At least indicate some of the, I don't know what you call them, pieces of wood that are sticking out. Here, some of the darker spots. I don't know if this is doing it justice or not. But this is what I'm going to do for now. Moofy says, it's amazing how quickly we've been able to add small details. Thank you. That's the trick of being able to go from large to small as you get to a point where just details just like machine gun out. Cub says, once again, I'm prompted to paint during the stream. Gonna finish the one on Side Tuesday. Yes, do it. Was the butterfly one? Do it. I'd love to see. Lisa's internet's being sloppy right now, and most of the videos is pausing. Oh no, that sounds terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. And then we have this, that. Cherry Rose says, any place you want to visit around the world. I'd love to actually go to Japan. That'd be like amazing. Aside from that, I definitely want to go like Thailand. I've always wanted to go to Thailand. Norway. Norway is beautiful. Heels Only is heading home to set up paints myself. Thank you for streaming. Hope I can paint along one day. I hope you can paint along one day too. Thank you. It was good to have you here. Cub says, yes sir, correct, it's the one with the butterfly. Sweet. I'm excited to see how that goes for you. The landscapes are infinitely paintable. And they just keep going on. Iceland too, man. Iceland would be astounding. I've seen only beautiful things of there. Marie says, Lofoten Islands are insane and would be amazing to paint. I'm not sure I know where those are. That sounds fun. Rufi says, I've been lucky enough to do model workshops in Iceland, and it's a dream. That sounds so good. For a while I was listening to a band called Sigur Rós, Iceland band, and so I was just spending my time like looking it all up. It looks amazing. Mills, welcome. Welcome. You already love it. Thank you. Thank you. Marie also visited Faroes Island, which is a small island between Iceland and Norway. That sounds amazing. I've seen some. They belong to Denmark. I have seen some really beautiful things from Denmark. Like mushrooms everywhere. Okay, let's have a look. There are some kind of posts, some darker posts on this side over here that I want to do. Okay, let's look into it. Looks like I need a little more yellow. Okay. Mel says, Justin, are you growing a giant chunk of gray hair? No. It was dust or something. Wouldn't that be fun? A giant chunk of gray hair? If I am, apparently it's just falling out. So that's a little concerning. Alright. So, interesting times. Let's do this thing. So yeah, I'd love to travel to Norway. I'd love to travel to Japan. bunch of Southeast Asia. I've seen some really beautiful landscapes in China. I'm not sure how much I want to go to China, but rest in peace, Justin's hair. We loved you. Lee says, got to my other computer. My connection is better here. Good. I'm glad. This looks amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I'm excited by this. This is fun. Okay, so that's good. There's so much I could do with this wood, and I don't know how far to take it. How far do I take it? I'm just going to continue to do big to small, right? Big to small, and if we get to some fine details, then we'll get there. And if we don't, then we still made a painting along the way. So, ooh, what a terrible line. Has anyone else done any extensive traveling? Apparently this wood is really natural and going everywhere. Oh, you've got to go see a Norcag. How do I say your name? I always mess it up. But you're so polite to me. So I feel bad. Moofy has traveled a lot for work. I wish I could paint the memories. What do you do for work that you travel so much? Like, that sounds amazing. Krodumig went to Japan exactly 2 years ago today. Wow, happy 2-year Japan a day-ish thing for you. That sounds awesome. You went for 3 weeks by yourself. That sounds like a dream. Moofy says, it seems less involved to just take a photo and move on. You were a freelance model. Wow. That's kind of impressive. Why'd you give that up? It sounds fun. Maybe fun? I don't know. I actually don't know what that would look like. Always polite. I understand that. I understand the plights and perils of being always polite. Umi says, I actually lived in Japan for a year for my studies. That sounds amazing. Like, I would love to have lived in Japan for a year. Brandon did 4 weeks bouncing around the Mediterranean this past summer for work, and it was amazing. You know what? Actually, my sister went to Malta for studies, and that just looks astounding. Moofy, I don't want people judging my merit based on the way I look. I get that. Someone as amazingly handsome as myself. I'm kidding. And then I realized that could be insulting to you, so I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't want people judging me on my art, so I totally get that. And I don't want to judge people on the merit of their art or their looks or anything. It's hard. We're like kind of social by nature. It's about defining what that is, right? I'd rather people judge me for my terrible art than my amazing face. I love it. The flaming glasses. It makes me sad you decided not to paint this house smaller white sun. This house is... Oh, the house is smaller white sun. Well, we can do it. There's still time. There's still time. If we get around to it, we will. The small white... Well, there's also the cousin in the back that I've neglected as well. I still like you, small white sun. Rock my handsome face. Oh. Oh. Shucks. You know, I have a small white son and a small white daughter. What am I doing? I'm mixing up for those. Okay. Sorry, I keep being like halfway through something and then talking and then like having no idea what I was just doing. Because I'm an artist and I don't keep track of myself. Terrible. Alright. So let's do this. I know actually that this is not exactly how this top goes. You can actually see through some of it back here. But I think I'm going to leave it as it is. Cherry says, I went to Bosnia last year. Beautiful, lots of greens. I couldn't stop painting. Bosnia. I honestly have never been to Bosnia. I've never really even thought about going to Bosnia. What's in Bosnia that would... What did you go to Bosnia for? What should I go to Bosnia for? I am Bosnia ignorant. Isn't it like Bosnia and Herzegovina or something? Just touting more of my ignorance. I don't know. Yeah, lots of artistic license. I'm like, you know what? The amount of people who have actually been to this place, next to none. How many people who have been to this place will actually see my work? Probably none. How many people who have been to this place see my work and notice that there's a slight difference? Probably none. So, artistic license. I'm all down for it. And that was way too dark. Okay, so I'm going to give these shadow. Just a little bit of shadow. It's interesting. Something I learned. I started doing a lot of studies of Kim Jong-gi. He's the guy who does these crazy drawings. And I don't really intend to be like Kim Jong-gi, but one really interesting thing that I learned from drawing a lot of his drawings is that he gives everything form and shape. Like everything has 3 dimensions, no matter how big or small it is. And things that I would have otherwise not given 3 dimensions, he gives 3 dimensions, even as just like the slightest, most minute little line to indicate that that 3rd dimension is there. And it makes the biggest world of a difference. It's interesting. And so I was just thinking about that because I'm giving these things shadows, and whether or not you would maybe actually see the shadows, I'm not sure. But in the world of like the idea that we're trying to communicate something, we're communicating, like that's what we're doing here, means that it's almost more important to communicate that there's a 3rd dimension than not. Interesting ideas. Curious. Okay. So I think I'm gonna do some basic lines to kind of get some of these panels going. I don't want them to be too I don't want too much stuff going on, but I do want them to exist. So I'm just gonna kind of do them a little freeform now, a little messy. I mean, it's wood. Flaming Glass says, have I ever considered making a tutorial on painting buildings and architecture? Yes, actually. I was thinking about that as I was preparing for this one. I'm also doing I'm creating a long form course about painting landscapes. And so one of the things I was considering is should I put in architecture into that paradigm? You guys have any thoughts? I'd love to hear. Is it relevant enough? Lee says, do I have a plan on releasing an art book of my paintings? Eventually I do. Someone asked me that last time I was streaming, and I said, oh yeah, eventually, but I'm not sure when, because I don't know when I'll have enough. And they quite rightly told me that I probably have enough, even just on my Instagram feed. So I've also thought about probably releasing something like that, doing a Kickstarter, releasing something like that in August, or maybe the release cycle before that. I don't know. It depends. I think I want to do like a little art book of all of these Japan paintings. Because I think that'll be like a nice little collection once they're all done. Flaming Glass says, I would love a tutorial on that specifically. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll make a tutorial on that specifically. For you. And everyone else, but for you. Here we go. What do you struggle with in painting buildings? Braden says, probably not in your landscape series, only because it is very much a perspective conversation. You're right. Maybe a separate series architecture could make sense. Lee says, if you feel like you don't have enough completed pieces, you can always fill it with the process too. Yes, I can always fill it with the process too. Okay, so between Braden and the Flaming Glass, I won't put it in my landscape course, but I will make one. I will make one. I think you're right, Braden. It is very much a conversation about perspective. And there's a little bit more to it, but perspective is kind of like the container that holds it all. Flaming Glass says, I'll definitely be buying that if you decide on it. My confidence with buildings is terrible, though I haven't attempted it often. I getcha. Oh, I getcha. Braden says, perspective and visual library, but it's a super fun subject. I agree. And visual library is such a fun subject. It's something I've been working on a lot lately. It is so, like, infinitely useful. Cherry Rose says, I would love a tutorial about painting rocks. You know what, Cherry? That's the next one I'm doing. I'm working on it. Alright? All in good time. What would you like to know about painting rocks? What makes you say that? If you have an answer to that question. You might not have an answer to that question. Okay. So I have done like next to nothing about the face of this building, so let's dive into it. We're gonna do it. So it's split up into a bunch of little sections here. We're going to use our fancy gradient trick again because it's amazing. And why the heck did no one ever tell me that a round brush makes a gradient? Maybe because I never went to art school. I'm not sure they'd even teach you that in art school. I get the impression they don't teach anything in art school. Though, actually, I'm sure I'd get in trouble if I said that around the wrong person. Okay, so... boom. So this is the beginning. Here's the beginning. Give me a little more water in this. Okay, is my internet messing up again? Might be. Might be. Let's check that out because I can see my phone and oh, sorry. Nope, we're good. Sorry for messing that up. My phone and my internet was my computer was saying two different things. Okay. Okay, so, man, I love this. I love doing this. This is so satisfying. I mean, at this point, I'm basically just copying what I see. Though I'm going to have to find a good way to make it look like a bunch of this stuff is actually fading between the paint and the wood. I'm going to fix up this line just a little bit. Flaming glasses, the amount of depth in that roof is amazing. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. This is where the fun times come in. When you get that satisfying feeling. Especially that corner curl, says Moofy. Ah. Thank you. This corner curl or that one? Here's the weird thing about this. The weird thing about this is that this corner curl up here is like hidden right behind this patio roof thing. Or the upper curl, right. And so you don't see the other side. It's a little off-putting, but I suppose I'll keep it. Like, it is what it is. Cherry says, yes, I look forward to it. Always struggle with rocks, tricky to paint, especially around foliage. Cool. Flame glasses is implied. It is implied. It's implied. I can learn to be happy with that. I think the important thing is something doesn't feel wrong. If it doesn't feel wrong, then it's right. The minute it feels wrong, then it's most definitely wrong. So Moofy says, I don't think anyone even noticed until you pointed it out. You're right. You're right. As long as that's the case, then I think we're all good. Alright, so now see if we can get a little dirty on this thing. If you catch my drift. Which to me, making this feel like wood that's just like screams dry brushing in my head, getting all that texture in, especially around like the smoothness of the paint and the gradient. If I can get some really rough texture in here, then I think it's gonna feel all right. Nice. Now while I have the brush actually doing something really nice, let's move that to appropriate places. Let's make the most of it. so much to do. So little time to do it in. Forever, not enough time. But that's okay. At least I tell myself that that's okay. Alright, let's do a bit more. Gotta keep my brush like just dry enough. Let's get a little bit lighter than that. Maybe a little lighter, a little more yellowy. It's coming out as really blue, and that's all right. Danae, nice to have you here today. Looks great, thank you. Thank you. We're kind of getting into this little intense section apparently. Everything's going quiet. Which doesn't mean that you have to be quiet. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to take a break from this face here because we're going to have to put this kind of like structure that's supporting everything down. So let's work on that for just a minute before we get back too serious. I don't want to do too much that's going to be like covered up. Wow, looks like we got 30 people watching. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have people who kind of care about what's going on. Okay, let's have a look. Let's get these down. So we've got one beam that's basically coming down here. You know what? Before I do that, I'm even going to put these steps in. The steps. The steps? Why did no one tell me about the steps? Because the frame is coming down above the steps, or like, you know, in front of it. So I've got to put these. Umi says you deserve way much viewers. You're out so good. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate hearing that. Cub says, what struggles have you encountered in your art career? All of them. Every single one of them. I'm being a bit facetious, but kind of not. Just try to make ends meet. Art's hard because it's... If you're doing art, if you're doing a piece of art for a single person, it has to cost a lot of money because it takes a lot of time. If you're doing art for lots of people, then it can cost less money because it takes a lot of time, but the money is split between people, right? And the hard part is trying to get having enough people who care about your art and who want to buy or support you in some way. It's really hard. It's really hard because it's a thing that, and then you have the aspect of it where people don't think, it's hard to think enough of yourself to like charge lots of money for anything. Man. And so I did things like I did a lot of book covers for a while. I tried painting portraits, but I didn't have enough. I didn't have a market at that point. I didn't have anyone who would buy portraits that cost as much as they needed to cost to be able to actually make it work. And book covers are alright, but you need a new client. Like, you need 2 or 3 clients a month, and so that's actually rather difficult to constantly be in the game. At the moment, I'm like sort of making ends meet, but even that's really tough because it's always very unreliable. So what kind of challenges? Money challenges, as well as like knowing Brandon Huda. Hey, there's One Fantastic Wisdom come out. Yeah. So then there's the kind of content I spent so long, as apparently Braden is aware, trying to be a fantasy artist, and just making terrible decisions because I was trying to fit what other people thought art needed to be. But art is nothing other than like a way of communicating, like writing. And so trying to figure out, well, what is the content that I want to be? What is the actual content that I actually want to be, in the analogy, writing about or painting about? And then how is that different from what I believe an artist should do? Because I had all of these stupid beliefs about what it means to be an artist, which just aren't true. Junsai says, "Hey, so excited to watch the painting process. Thanks for sharing." No worries. Mufi says, "Trying to juggle your living needs versus your creative needs is so difficult and often depressing." Absolutely. So difficult. I think the more you can make them honest, the easier it gets. The Flaming Gus says, have you always been interested in art? I have, in some way or another. I also considered music. I love music, and I'm alright at it, but art won out. Art won out in the end. Here we go. Flaming Glasses, do you play an instrument? I may very well play 1 or 2 or 10. I play piano mostly. Yeah. Piano mostly. I live in South Carolina, so I started playing the mandolin, which is a very versatile instrument. Lots of fun. Unfortunately, generally used for country. And I'm not a huge fan of country, but there is so much crazy stuff you can do with mandolins. It's like immensely versatile instrument and lots of fun. The Mandy, good old Mandy. Okay, this is starting to come together a bit. I've got these like little post things sitting down here. Muffy says, I always think of the mandolin as a medieval instrument like the lute. It kind of is. There's a lot of the funny thing is there's a lot of like there's a lot of classical music written for the mandolin. It's just got this like really weird spot in culture of somehow being like bogan redneck and at the same time having concertos written for it. It's so strange to think of it being used for country music. Yeah, you should hear it. If there's any country music I like, the mandolin's a part of it. Like the triangle. Yes, actually. Funnily enough. Yes, like the triangle. So good. The Flaming Glob plays bass, guitar, and ukulele. The mandolin's silly cousin. The poor ukulele never gets taken seriously. The poor ukulele. Both very lame and also important. Triangle. The triangle never gets taken seriously either. Okay, let's see. So I think I'm happy to put these things in. Okay, let's do it. Round about here. Painting on top of other things. A quite possibly nerve-wracking adventure. I don't want to destroy anything, but I gotta put it over. Recorder's the worst instrument, hands down. Yeah. Though actually, my cousin went to the conservatorium in Brisbane for the recorder. She put this really big recorder. Apparently, she's really good at it. So don't be saying too much about the recorder now. Are you wiping away excess paint or smudging or drying with your finger? That depends on what it is you're talking about. I can't think of doing it myself. It's a bit ingrained. I use it a lot to like make edges less hard. I'll happily just smush away with my finger. As well as if I make a mistake, I'll try and lift some stuff up with my finger, or I don't know. I do that very like instinctively. I don't think about it very much, but I know that I do it. And I have no problem with it either. Sometimes I just like the texture that you get when you use your finger. It's like a texture I don't get with my brushes. Flaming Glass says, well, she can probably play hot cross buns pretty well then. I bet she plays a wicked hot cross buns. Okay, let's do that. Get a nice gradient in there. All about those gradients. Alright, then there's some supporting structures in here. Which come out from inside the door frame. So let's do that. This ended up being a pretty intense painting. Not my usual quick plein air piece. But at the same time, super happy with them. Let's make that a little. Murphy says, do you ever paint a new element and regret it? Absolutely. Absolutely. If I can get rid of it, I will get rid of it. Sometimes I have to, I don't know, like one of these lines up here was wrong. So I just broadened, it was on the wrong angle, so I broadened it and then brought this part up a bit and that part down a bit and made it the right angle, but now it's thicker than it was before. That was one of those Ono moments. But once again, artistic license. No one's gonna notice if I make it look even and like it's supposed to be there. No one's gonna ask questions. But yeah, that happens all the time. What to do? Okay, so let's get another little. Let's have a look. Maybe a little cheeky gradient in here. See, that wipe was for removing paint for sure. These wipes for making the edges less. And let's see, let's go in. We're gonna put some of the stuff that was behind. Man, I could spend so long on all of this. But I know I don't always have time. So let's have a look. Also, it's quite apparent to me right now that I've made mine way wider than the reference, and I don't care that it's wider. The question is, what do I decide to do to make up that width? And I think it just means I'm going to make this kind of door frame area bigger. I'm going to come in with that small brush, do these micro gradients. Let's get back out that. Ooh, here we go. Nice, really thick brush. I think it was destroyed by oil paints years ago. Probably has some decent dry brushing. Murphy says, I have to head off, but thank you for being so informative and answering all the questions. No worries. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being a patron. If anyone else feels like supporting this work on Patreon, go ahead and head over to my Patreon. I would be forever indebted to you. No, but it just means that I'd be able to, like, you know, do this more often. Make art. Be able to be here for the people. Alright, let's have a look. I want to see if I can get some more darkness up here. And I think I'll end up scumbling it in. Movie said I could definitely recommend Justin's tutorials on Patreon or Gumroad. Thank you, Movie, for that social endorsement. I love it. I love it. And I'll be here on Tuesday. I'll be here painting. And I'm going to get started on that rock tutorial you guys are talking about. Bernice says, "Hi, it's great to see your painting. I'm curious to use gouache with watercolor." No, your English is fantastic, Bernice. I'm using poster color. So it's basically like gouache. It may as well be gouache. So yeah, if you want to do stuff like this, gouache is your way to go. I'm going to try to dry brush some of this stuff in. Bernice, yeah, no worries. You're welcome. Okay, I want to make this down here a little bit darker. Uh-oh, my son just woke up from his nap. And I have a feeling he just got told to go back to sleep. And is not happy about it. There's so much I want to do here. And there's no time. Okay, I have to put in these supports down here because otherwise the whole thing doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, let's do that. Nimla, hi. Thank you. It's good to see ya. What a beautiful painting you've got there, she says. Thank you. If anyone hasn't seen Nimla's masks and statues, they're amazing. They're the stuff dreams are made of. Go and follow Nimla on Instagram. She's amazing. Yeah, I always love seeing your stuff pop up. Is it stuff that you kind of like from your own mythology, or is it more cultural stuff?
That's we're going to talk to our dear friends.
You could talk to my friends
On your computer.
on my computer.
Can you say hello?
Hello.
You say hello?
Do you want to tell them I'm sorry for waking up grumpy? I'm happy now. You say I'm happy now?
Okay.
Oh, you can't.
It's fine.
We're all good. We're going out.
All right.
Sorry for the disturbances.
No, you're good. I love you. Look. Brayden in the Flaming Glass says hello, and so does Ume and Nimla. Everyone's saying hello to you.
Dad,
Yeah.
I like your house.
You like my house? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Are you painting that house?
Yeah, I'm painting that house.
But does somebody live in there?
I don't think so.
Is it pretty?
It is pretty. It's a shrine.
This looks like a shed.
It does look like a shed. I think this is a place where you go to talk to your grandparents.
Shall we go do our shopping?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell Daddy bye.
Bye.
Love you guys. See you later.
You giving hug and kiss Daddy?
See ya. There we go. There's the family. They just woke up. So cute. So cute indeed. I agree. Alright, I think that gave me a nice little break to see some things I want to do. Such as changing the fam. Yeah, the fam. Love them. Making some of this stuff darker so that it comes out a little bit more. Here we go. So, one other really cool thing, if I paint it once, just as is, then normally ends up being a relatively smooth surface. And then I can come over and do a quick little glaze over the top. And if I do a little glaze over the top, then it starts to get a lot more of the texture of the brush into the stroke. So things like this wood turned out really well because I was able to get that texture in there. Okay, and I want to do more of a shadow, but I don't know. There we go. I think I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I could do so much more. These wooden beams. I'm going to restrain myself. I'm going to restrain. Okay. Let's come back. Put some shadows down here. Nimla says I'm going to be lurking, making dinner. So great to see you on Twitch. Are you streaming on both Twitch and YouTube? I am streaming on Twitch and YouTube. I polled my audience and they were divided. I have a divided audience. The Magic Hand says, "What you doing? What you doing? Having a watching good time." We are painting Japan. Oh, I haven't used this for a while. Boom. Okay, so we are traveling along Japan. We're starting down at Yakushima Island. At the moment, we're actually in Tanegashima Island, and then we're going to be painting up some kind of sorcery. That's right, sorcery. Well, look at this. Oh, apparently that's stuck in that camera is stuck in an old place. This was when I first began. I have a number of camera angles, I promise, and it's really cool. But apparently, it just does not work. It does not work. Yeah, so painting across Japan, I can't actually, afford to go. So I'm just doing it. I'm not gonna let that stop me. Okay. There's some value things I want to do here. Like I want to make this area a bit darker. But I'm really. Magic Hand says, "Is that gouache?" Well, is it? It is. It's actually a medium called poster color, which is like gouache. For me, the reason I use this as opposed to gouache is it travels so well. And I do a lot of plein air stuff. When I'm not doing digital plein air stuff. What other medium, flaming glasses, whatever other mediums have you tried before using poster color? A lot of them, all of them. I love paint and I don't really care, if I'm using, I don't really care what I'm using. And the more that I paint, the less I see there's a difference between all of the mediums. I use, so way back when I started and I was doing a bunch of portraits, I did oil, and so oil is where I started. Oil is where I started doing all of my landscape work as well. But I would find that if I wasn't kind of being aware of myself, I would end up not painting because I was, I'd think about like all the setup and the breakdown and everything of all of my oils, and I'd be like, I don't know that I really want to do that. Like I don't know that I want to. I'd think about going somewhere to paint, and I'd be like, maybe not. Which is stupid because I want to paint. But I decided I wanted to paint more than I wanted to paint oils, so I said that I made it like a commitment to try and find something that would let me paint with like next to no commitment. Like, could I sit down if my kids, decide they don't want to be there anymore 2 minutes later, can I stand up, walk away, and then try another one? And I did watercolor for a while, but watercolor is like all transparent. And I did oil and I did digital, and I didn't want to have to be going between transparent and opaque kind of frame of minds. So I decided that I was going to try gouache and poster color. Yeah, for exactly that reason. They're so convenient for traveling and plein air. Uh-oh, people are watching me. I can hear my voice reverberating throughout the house. Yeah. So at the moment, I want to start to put some leaves, some flowers on this guy. Give it some definition. Magic Hand says, thanks for the info. No worries. That's what I'm here for. Magic Hand says, gotta go, looks great. Thank you for joining me. Feel free to subscribe wherever you're watching, and I'll see you later. Magic Hand's now following. Thank you. Do I still do watercolor sometimes? I can tell you I'm not opposed to doing watercolor. I am not opposed to doing watercolor. But I honestly don't do it very much. I just tried a medium called open acrylic. So it's like acrylic, but it takes longer to dry, which had me somewhere in between acrylic and oils, which I found actually really nice. Really nice. Because it's not kind of crazy, poison, terrible to breathe kind of stuff. But still had that long drying time that the oils have. So I think any portraits I do here in the future I'm gonna use that. This is really interesting. Whatever kind of small effect is going on here, which I don't think you guys can see very well how that's coming. Interesting. Yeah, so I'm going to put just like a little bit of detail here. It doesn't need to be much. It's got some pretty... You know what? I think we have room for a little white sun. And for anyone who wasn't watching half an hour ago, might not understand what we're talking about. Okay. Maybe not. Maybe we don't have time for that at the moment. Maybe we'll come back for that. You know, I think this might be a good place to leave it. This might be a good place to leave for here and now. So I'm starting to get decision drained. What is that called? Decision fatigue. Starting to hit that bump. So, oh no! It's okay. We'll get little sun in there. Just not today. Just not right now. But rest in peace, small house. Thank you guys all so much for joining me. Feel free to follow on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you originally found me, I suppose. If you want to learn how to paint, I have a bunch of tutorials. Also, feel free to join me on Patreon. It's where I'm able to kind of financially make stuff like this happen. So I am super glad I even just got to chat to you